Have you ever heard about proteins? Welcome to your channel, ADP for Learning. I am Aashish Katyaal. Today, we are delving deep into the ways in which proteins influence your life and surroundings. Whether it's the digestion occurring inside your body, the development of hair and nails, the transmission of messages in the brain, or the formation of colors and pigments in your skin, hair, or eyes, proteins are involved in numerous processes. They are ubiquitous, building the foundations and functions of our bodies. Today, we will explore 12 different processes in which proteins play a crucial role. Let's begin with digestion, the first process.
Proteins called enzymes work in your digestive tract. They break food into pieces small enough for your body to absorb and use. Different enzymes break down different types of food. This protein is called amylase. It breaks down starch. Most living things take in nutrients in some form. From animals to plants to bacteria, we all use proteins to digest our food.
The second notable example involves the creation of pigments.
These proteins work together like an assembly line to build a pigment called melanin. It's what gives your hair, eyes, and skin their color. Melanin is made inside specialized cells called melanocytes. Each protein enzyme carries out one step in the process. It catalyzes a chemical reaction that changes one substance into something else. In animals, melanin pigments color fur, feather, scales, and more. And in plants, similar proteins work together to make pigments that color their flowers.
The third process in which proteins are involved is the replication of genetic material.
Living things keep a copy of their genetic instructions as DNA inside each of their cells. Before a cell can divide to make two cells, it has to copy its DNA. A whole team of proteins works together to do this job. A few are shown here. DNA polymerase puts building blocks together to make a new DNA strand. Every living thing has DNA, from puppies to single-celled bacteria. To copy their DNA, they all use similar teams of proteins.
Moving on to the fourth process, which relates to the formation of hair and nails.
Hair is made up of dead cells filled with a protein called keratin. New cells are added to the base as the hair grows. Fingernails grow this way too, and they are also made of tough keratin proteins. Individual keratin proteins twist and weave together to make strong rope-like fibers. Keratin builds lots of other things too. Beaks, horns, scales, and much more are made mostly of keratin.
The fifth essential process concerns the transport of nutrients.
Nutrients travel through the bloodstream to all the body's tissues. Cells use proteins to grab the nutrients they need and move them inside. Different proteins move different nutrients. This protein is moving sugar from the outside to the inside of a cell. All living things use proteins to move their nutrients into their cells. Plants make nutrients in their leaves and often move them to their roots for storage. Root vegetables like sweet potatoes, beets, and carrots hold lots of energy in their roots.
The sixth process involves the construction of the body's structure.
Collagen is the most plentiful protein in your body, and it's a big part of what holds everything together. It's in your heart, blood vessels, eyes, skeleton, and more. Long collagen proteins weave together to form strong meshes and fibers. In different arrangements, collagen helps to give each tissue just the right shape, strength, and stretch. Collagen protein helps to give all animals their structure, even insects and sponges.
The seventh crucial process is the transmission of messages in the brain.
In the brain, cells called neurons send and receive messages. It takes a lot of proteins to do this job. Most of the action happens in the synapse. That's where a neuron that's sending a signal comes very close to a neuron that's receiving it. At the synapse, the sending neuron is releasing chemical signals. The signals activate protein receptors on the receiving cell, and that keeps the message going. Once the signal has done its job, a transporter protein takes it back up into the sending cell. Anything with a brain has similar cells that use many of the same types of proteins. That goes for the simple brain of the water bear to the super smart brain of the Kia, which can do math.
The eighth process contributes to your ability to see, taste, feel, and touch.
Touch-sensing cells in your fingers use specialized proteins to help you feel. They turn a signal from outside the body into a chemical signal that goes to your brain. Pressure slightly squishes the touch-sensing cell. This bends the piezo proteins sitting in the cell membrane. As it bends, a hole opens up that lets charged ions move through. This starts a chemical signal, and other proteins help to carry it. Proteins that respond to other types of signals contribute to all our senses. Light-sensing proteins in eye cells help with sight, and chemical-sensing proteins in the nose and mouth help with smell and taste.
Next is the 9th process, blood clotting.
When you get a cut, proteins work together to stop the bleeding. First, signaling proteins send out a message that tissue is damaged. Then, fibrin proteins and platelets come together to make a clot. Any animal with blood needs a way to stop the bleeding. Some use different proteins than people, but the idea is the same. A signal from the wound brings in proteins to seal it.
The 10th prominent process is the development and movement of muscles.
Muscles are built mostly from strong protein fibers. Different types of fibers line up alongside one another in an organized pattern. Myosin proteins make the movement happen. They walk along the actin proteins, and this shortens the muscle fiber. Many proteins working together make muscles contract. It may not look quite like your bicep, but scallops use a similar muscle to hold their shell closed. It's called an adductor, and it works the same way.
The 11th process pertains to the motion of ions.
Electrical impulses travel from one end of a neuron to the other. To send a nerve impulse, the cell needs the right balance of charged ions on the inside and outside. Proteins set up this ion balance, and they help to carry the impulse. Transporter proteins move ions in and out of the cell all along its length. When the impulse comes, channel proteins open, and the built-up ions rush through in the opposite direction. This keeps the impulse going. Electrical impulses, even if they don't send nerve impulses, all cells need to maintain a proper balance of ions, and they use similar proteins to do it. Even these single-celled yeast.
Last but not least, the 12th process involves the transportation of oxygen.
Red blood cells are packed full of a protein called hemoglobin. This protein picks up oxygen in the lungs and delivers it to all the body's tissues. Hemoglobin proteins have iron-containing heme molecules inside. The heme makes it possible for the protein to carry oxygen. It also gives this protein and blood its red color. Most animals with backbones use hemoglobin to carry oxygen. But even animals with blood that looks very different from ours use a similar protein to do the same job.
You've now witnessed how proteins play a vital role in the lives of living organisms. Thank you for joining us on this incredible learning journey. We'll meet again with exciting new topics. In the meantime, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.